Hello, everyone. Welcome back. A good Erev Shabbos to everyone. In this week's Torah portion of Vayetze, we learned that Yaakov, our father, started his journey into his faithful relationship with his wives, naming his children, and really securing his destiny for all time. And it's interesting that where was Yaakov before this? Before he had the fateful dream of the ladder going with the angels going up and down. He studied in a yeshiva. It was the yeshiva of Shem and Eber. Shem was, of course, one of Noah's sons. Shem and Eber. And he spent 14 years in this yeshiva. In fact, one time when I was in Israel many, many years ago, we went touring, and our tour guide showed us the cave of Shem and Eber. I think it was in the north of Israel. And he studied Torah there for 14 years. And then after his soul was full of Torah study, off he went, and he went to Haran. And the Torah tells us, "V'yetze Yaakov mi Beersheva v'yelech Harana." Yaakov left his home in Beersheva, and he went to Haran. Haran was the place of his kindred, and it was there that he met his wives and worked for Lavan for many, many years, his uncle, and amassed a fortune and many children, and off he went. And it's interesting how important it is to see that we have good teachers, and how important the teachers can be in our lives, and the influence that a teacher can have in us. Yaakov spent 14 years, precious good years of his youth, studying under two great teachers, Shem and Eber. And there he learned to appreciate godliness and to appreciate Torah values and Torah that was available at that time. And indeed, that caused him to be strengthened in his Jewishness and have a very positive attitude towards it as he went and encountered tremendous difficulties and challenges when he lived by his uncle, the wicked Lavan. I remember when I was in yeshiva many years ago, we were studying this parsha, and I had a wonderful teacher named Rabbi Morris Besdin. He was interesting name, Besdin, which means a rabbinical corp. That was his name, Rabbi Morris Besdin. Rabbi Besdin taught many, many hundreds of students, young students like myself, and more than teaching us Torah, Rabbi Besdin showed us the love that he had for Torah, which I remember to this day. And in fact, the positiveness that he instilled in us remains with me to this day. And even though Rabbi Besdin is long gone from this world, I still remember him very, very fondly. And I remember we were studying this particular verse that Yaakov left Beersheba and he went on to Haran. Rabbi Besdin taught us a cute little grammatical rule in Hebrew. And that is when you add the letter hey to a noun, to a place, it means to that place. So, for example, it would have said, Vayetze Yaakov Beersheva v'yelech el Haran. Yaakov went to Haran, but it says instead, Vayelech Harana. He went to Haran. The hey at the end of Haran means to that place. So Rabbi Besdin taught us that grammatical rule. Very nice. But then came the clincher. He called it the Brooklyn Hay. The Brooklyn Hay. What does that mean, the Brooklyn Hay? He said, well, what would you say? It says Harana. What would you say if it said Brooklyna? Brooklyna means to Brooklyn. So he said, there, it's the Brooklyn Hay. And we all got a good joke out of it and a good laugh out of it. But it was a time of warmth, showing how much Torah meant to Rabbi Besdin and how he could joke about it and he could see humor in it, and he taught it to us. And I remember the rule of the Brooklyn Hay to this day because of Rabbi Besdin and how he taught us Torah, and I'll never forget that. It's very important that we send our children to a school that the teachers are loving and the teachers are instilled with a love for Judaism and a love for God and a love for the children. It's very, very important. Unfortunately, many of our kids go to schools where the teachers are not well trained and the teachers really don't know how to teach, and the teachers will either embarrass the children or have no patience for the children, and that's not a very good situation. Obviously, we need to be careful with the teachers that we choose to teach our children, to make sure that they instill in our children the love for Judaism, the love for Torah that they're supposed to instill in it. The Rebbe used to say that we need teachers that are filled with Yirah Shamayim, with fear of heaven, and that teach Al Taharas HaKodesh in the holy way. And indeed, that's what we need to do. So we hope that by sending our children to Jewish schools, it's not good enough that they're Jewish, it's not good enough that they teach Torah, but they need to have teachers that love Torah and love God. And those are the teachers we need in our schools. And thank God most of our schools have such teachers. We're very fortunate to send our children to such schools. Candle lighting tonight is at 4:31 and in San Diego, and we look forward to seeing you on Shabbos. And have a good Shabbos. Bye bye.